Today I'll be reviewing the Apple IIc Plus computer released in 1988. This was the successor to the Apple IIc computer released 4 years earlier. The IIc Plus offered some considerable differences, although those differences were small in number. The first of which was the replacement of the internal 5¼ inch floppy disk drive with a 3½ inch floppy disk drive. This allowed for increased storage capability, 800 kilobytes versus the 280 kilobytes offered on a 5¼ inch disk. The second difference was the internalization of the power supply, so you didn't have to carry around that power supply brick anymore like you did on the IIc. And for Commodore 64 users, you're probably also familiar with that concept. The third difference was an increase in the processor speed to 4 MHz, making this the fastest stock Apple II computer ever released. You could also toggle down to 1 MHz if you needed to play games that had strict timing requirements. To get things started, I'm only going to need 2 items: the Apple IIc Plus computer and a TV or monitor to display on. Of course, there are some optional items that I might want to recommend, and those would include an external 5¼ inch floppy disk drive and a joystick. Oh, and we might need some software too. Alright, so let's take a closer look at this thing. So it has a keyboard identical to the 2GS. It's got a button that switches between Dvorak and QWERTY mode. Got volume control right here on the computer, so you don't have to go into the control panel anymore. Here on the right is your internal floppy disk drive. It's got this handy handle, so the next time you walk into your business meeting you can go in style. Here on the back you have your basic ports. So here you got your mouse or joystick port. You got a port for your modem, RGB output and composite output, which is what I'm going to be using today. You have a port for an external floppy disk drive, a printer port, and your power. When you boot up the machine, it's going to default at 4 MHz, so if you want to slow it down to 1 MHz, you just hold the escape key during startup. So just to show you what a difference 4 MHz versus 1 MHz looks like, let's play an exciting game of Word Attack Plus, Education Made Fun. And I'll play in easy mode. So you play as this California raisin looking thing, and you have to match up the definition to the word. Done in a hurry, hasty. I like this game. It makes me feel smart. Okay, so now let's play the same game, but this time in 4 MHz mode. Suddenly it's going a lot faster and I'm not getting the same bonus points I was before. Oh, come on, get in the hat. Get in the hat. Yeah. A major complaint with the IIc Plus was that 99% of 8-bit software was on floppy disks, and I mean 5¼ floppy disks. The internal 3½ inch floppy drive really hurt the system more than it helped it, and that's because buyers of the system automatically had to buy an external 5¼ inch floppy drive if they wanted to use any of the available 8-bit software that was in the market. Also keep in mind that although this did have 4 MHz CPU capability, there were accelerator cards that Apple II users could buy if they wanted to increase their speed capability as well, and that was much less the price of a new product. Also, it was 1988. 16-bit computers had already been introduced for years before this. The 2GS had been introduced 2 years prior to the introduction of the IIc Plus, and the Commodore Amiga 3 years before it. Even with the Apple II software that was on 3½ inch media, it wasn't all insert and play. Some of them required a boot disk, the system disk, like Tetris, because the 2GS and the Apple IIc program are both on the same disk. And so you have special instructions in order to use that game on the IIc Plus. So first you want to grab your 2C Plus system disk. This one I made through ADT Pro. So here you want to quit to another program. And then when you're prompted to enter the prefix, you want to swap disks, insert your game disk, Tetris in this case. And the prefix for Tetris is /Tetris. And the path name is Tetris C. So again, this particular game, the disk itself holds both the program for the 2GS and the 2C Plus versions. If I insert it in a 2GS, it's going to launch automatically. It's only with a 2C Plus I have to go in through the system like this. And here you can see the screen comes up, and the program is working. For me, where this system really shines is when you play high graphic games that would typically crawl on an Apple II. But on the 2C Plus running at 4 MHz, the games run just about perfectly. Here's some examples. Looking back, I can see why the Apple IIc Plus wasn't very popular, especially since Apple did little to endorse it. Today, however, it's one of the more sought-after Apple II computers, and for good reason. It's compact, it's portable, you can easily overclock it by replacing the crystal oscillator, and it also represents the last new Apple II product ever released. Thanks for watching.